So humans can typically hear between 20 hertz and 20 kilohertz. And what a hertz is a measurement of air disturbance. So when the air is disturbed 20 times per second, we perceive it as a pitch. That's 20 hertz, and that's generally the lowest most people can hear. All right, and if the air is disturbed 20,000 times per second, or 20 kilohertz, then that's generally the highest sound humans can hear. Although as you age, you lose some of that upper end hearing naturally. So I am in my mid 40s. I can't hear 20 kilohertz, right? I can hear, I think, up to like 16 or 17 kilohertz, which is not bad. So here we have this graph, and let me just show you kind of what this sounds like. So I have an 88 key MIDI controller hooked up to my system here, and if I play the very lowest note, you might be hearing a low rumble, or you might be hearing nothing at all if your speakers can't go this low. This is a low A on the piano, and it is 27.5 hertz, 27.5. If you look at this frequency graph, this is the 20 hertz line, this is the 30 hertz line, and so you can see that this is 27.5 hertz. Now, because this is an artificial instrument, it's not a natural instrument, and it's not trying to be one, there is very little other sonic information except there's some noise going on at a very low level up here in the extreme end. That's just kind of an artifact of the plugin. I don't think it's intentional. All right, now, conversely, on the other end of that, the very top of the keyboard is a C. And that's a lot to take, so I'm not going to play that very long. But here you can see a spike all the way up here. It's not quite 20,000 hertz or 20 kilohertz, right? Here's 10 kilohertz, and then this line over here is 20. But it is 98765, a little over 4 kilohertz. So we can actually hear quite a lot higher than the piano keyboard goes. And usually when you hear those things, it's like cymbal overtones or air, like air, not physical air, but like sonic air. And there's a lot of descriptive terms we use in mixing that are hard to translate into concrete concepts. But basically, we are hearing the overtones of the instruments way up in this area. So think about that, 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. And there's basically an infinite number of frequencies in between, right? Because they're like numbers. So numbers are always like infinite by themselves, right? Because they can be divided and subdivided and subdivided. But for our modern musical harmony system, that's like a little overwhelming. We don't have an infinite variety of notes. We have 12 notes. So somewhere along the line in history, and that's a little beyond the scope of this video and this course, but people got together and decided that we were going to take the infinite variety of frequencies and just group them into 12 notes. And here they are. These are the notes of the piano keyboard, and shout out to pianokeyboardguide.com for providing this handy guide on the internet. You can see we have 12 notes. C, I'm going to use the sharps here. C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, and B. That's 12 notes. And then it starts over again, C. So the infinite variety of frequencies that we can hear are sort of sorted and filtered into 12 different pitches that repeat over and over again at higher or lower levels. Now, if we look at the MIDI editor in Ableton here, we can see this. There's the keyboard along the side there, and we are going to take a deeper look at this in another video. But here is the note C, and that's C3. Here's another note, C, and it's C2. C3 and C2 are an octave apart. And so there's C4 and C5, and there's octaves for every note. For instance, here's G sharp 3, and let's go down here, and this is G sharp 2. So out of all those infinite frequencies, we sort the frequencies into groups of 12, and we just sort of ignore the in-between frequencies. In Western music, when we hear in between frequencies, the frequencies, it's not G, it's not G sharp, it's like somewhere in between those two notes, for instance. We perceive it as being sort of like out of tune. Some people might say pitchy, but it's really out of tune. Other musical traditions in the Eastern world, for instance, will make great use of the frequencies in between our Western notes. And that's called, a bunch of different things. We would call it microtonal if it's doing it sort of on purpose. So it really depends on your intention. So the thing I want you to get from this is that out of all the infinite frequencies that there are, we really only use about 12 of them. And then those 12 repeat over and over again at higher and lower levels. So we end up using more than 12 frequencies, but we filter them into 12 notes.